like to start off by saying I'm a female, and at the time this took place, I was 12, almost 13. I think a lot of us have instances in our youth that take off the rose-colored glasses of adolescence and reveal how terrifying people can really be. It was the summertime, and the apartments I lived in had its own social circle of kids around. They were all friends, and it was the equivalent to the popular crowd at school. I was, and still am, although not as much so, a very, very shy girl. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere because I was into gaming and anime, and no one else I knew was into that stuff. Oddly enough, though, through a bunch of seemingly random meetings that don't pertain to this story, I became best friends with the most popular girl in the complex. We'll call her Amy. Amy was already 13 at the time, about to turn 14, and needless to say, she was my definition at the time as very rebellious, especially when it came to her behavior around boys. Now, I was a good kid. I never got in trouble or did anything to break the rules. But Amy quickly became a bad influence on me. I thought she was so cool, and I had never had a friend like her before, and for the first time, I felt free. I would spend the night at her house every night. We would watch movies, have dance contests, and just have an all-around snack and chat. But it's also where she introduced me to one of her favorite things to do: sneak out of her apartment and roam around the streets like the badass she thought she was. When she first suggested we do this, my good girl tendencies were filling me with nervousness. But seeing as I wanted to impress her, I went along with it without objection. Now, I won't go into much detail about this, but sneaking out of her place was by no means easy. We had to crawl on the floor down her hallway and past her parents' wide-open bedroom, crawl down the stairs and past the area where her noisy dogs were asleep. Then once at the back door, we had to remove the overkill of locks that were placed on it. After sneaking through the door and over her fence, we were free. The atmosphere of the night hit me, the wind blowing the warm summer air through the trees, quiet streets, and an odd sense that we could finally do anything we wanted. We walked around and passed by the popular boys' houses and tried to get their attention by hitting their windows with tiny rocks and writing graffiti on the fences and electrical boxes. Amy and I truly bonded that first night. We did this a few times without incident, and I was becoming accustomed to the freedom I felt when I was with her. Now, summers in Texas, for anyone who doesn't know, are brutal. Even at night in a pair of shorts and a tank top, you felt overdressed for the temperature. So we would often frequent our complex's pool for a swim. The pool was less than stellar, to say the least, but it did the job. Now, at the same time these sneakouts were taking place, they had finally opened the brand new condo-style apartments right next door to our complex, and the only thing separating the two was a wooden fence that just so happened to have a door. Amy and I, one especially hot afternoon, decided to go over and check them out. To say they were rich would be a massive understatement. And the best part, though, they had 3 swimming pools. Waterfalls, jets, you name it. So right away we knew what our night's plan would be. It was around 3 in the morning when we made that last hop over Amy's fence and began our journey to pool heaven. The night was the same as always, until we walked through the fence and into the freshly built complex. It was eerie, and that may sound ridiculous at being new and all, but it just was. Every window light was off, and not a single sound could be heard. It was a Saturday night, and we assumed at least some people would be up, but it was just us. Strange to say, but it felt like a ghost town. Amy was very oblivious to her surroundings and seemed to just ignore things that were obviously not right. But I was a paranoid and fearful girl, so I was constantly observing and trusting my gut whenever something felt off. So we made our way to the pool that was just gorgeous and calling our names, when we heard the first sound of the night. The pool was surrounded by thick bushes, and so we crouched down out of sight and slowly approached. We were both taken aback at what we saw. A bunch of guys, around college age, were drinking and skinny dipping in the pool. I could tell right away they were drunk, and my stomach got this instant knot, and I wanted out of there. Amy was just staring, and being the flirt she was, She got up and began walking by the metal fence surrounding the pool. I had the biggest face palm ever as she ignored my words to stop and kept walking. I didn't want to leave her alone, so I quickly followed, not acknowledging the guys that were now dead silent and just watching us walk by. I could feel their eyes sliding creepily up and down our bodies and felt my skin crawl. We made it about halfway around the pool before they started calling us to come over and saying how sexy and hot they thought we were, all while being completely naked and not even bothering to cover up their junk. This felt like a pack of deranged wolves eyeing two helpless bunnies. I walked faster and pulled my friend's arm so we could turn the corner and be out of sight. Now, bear in mind, it probably didn't help that all I was wearing was a one-piece bathing suit and a pair of loose black shorts, and all Amy was wearing was a white t-shirt with her bathing suit underneath and a pair of extra short blue jean shorts. I felt completely exposed, and I wanted out now. Amy was smiling, feeling satisfied about the attention the guys gave her, until I looked at her with the most serious expression and said, "We're leaving now. Something is wrong with all of this." She saw the fear and panic in my eyes and nodded, and we began our walk back to the gate to our complex. Since the gate into our complex was right next to the exit of the new apartments, there was a long stretch of road leading to the exit. I was walking ahead of Amy and listening for any sounds or movements. I finally took a breath to try and calm my racing heart when I heard a car start. We were right in the middle of the road to the exit, and to our right was a small parking area. I stopped. Amy stopped. The car turned out to be a massive red pickup truck, and the engine was howling. Then I heard it. "Hey, there they are!" I turned to my friend and said, "Run." We both started running at full speed down the stretch of road. I was ahead and Amy was close behind. I could hear the truck peel out of the parking lot and start chasing us. They gained on us in a matter of seconds, and right before the front bumper could touch our heels, we jumped into the open gate and hid in the doorway of a nearby apartment. I was certain they were going to stop the truck and chase after us, but I heard it keep driving and screech out into the street. Amy was having a full-blown asthma attack, and I was crying in pain. Being the massive dumbasses we were, she forgot her inhaler, and I lost my shoes somewhere in between walking by the naked creeps and running for our lives. My feet were cracked and bleeding from running on the bare concrete, red and throbbing in pain. I wrapped my arm around Amy and helped her calm her attack and slow her breathing. After about 5 minutes of hyperventilating and crying, we regained a shred of composure and in unison said, "What the fuck was that? Were they trying to kill us?" I said in a shaky voice that I didn't know, and we both decided to go to our pool so I could soak my feet and she could cool down. Each step I took, I left a bloody footprint behind me, wincing in pain and shaking from head to toe. We reached our pool and quietly walked inside. I sat at the shallow end on the pool's edge, holding my feet in the cool water, giving a slight flinch as the chlorine rushed into my open cuts. I could feel my heart in a panic still. Amy was taking a swim, and we both kept to ourselves for a moment, hearing nothing but the silence of the night. She swam up to me and in a chilled voice said, "What do you think they wanted with us?" Before I could utter a word, the sound of a truck cut through the night's silence like a razor blade. It was driving very slowly, and without saying a word, we jumped out of the water. Now, the fence surrounding the pool was part brick and part metal. The metal part was closest to the street, where cars would drive by, and the brick part led to a back alley of sorts where rainwater would drain and you couldn't be seen. Amy and I quickly climbed over the brick fence, holding our clothes, just as the truck was driving by the other side. I peeked around and my heart rose to my throat. It was the same guys as before, and they were searching for us with flashlights as they drove creepily around the pool. I could hear Amy make a soft whimper as I held my breath. We both knew that there was no way back to her apartment without being completely and utterly exposed. We both knew we had maybe a 20-second head start to run our terrified asses as fast as possible back to her place. So we made the choice to just drop our clothes we were holding and take off running. The pain in my feet came back in full as I stepped on rocks, sticks, and who knows what else as we sped across the mixture of grass and sidewalk. We had made it about 15 feet when the truck turned the corner and sped up. The adrenaline surged through our bodies as we pushed ourselves to the limit. I glanced back for a brief second and saw a few of the guys had been waiting in the back of the truck bed and had jumped out the second they saw us. Now running full speed behind us and gaining fast, we ran down the pitch-black back alley to her backyard and hopped the fence. She slid the back door open and we slipped inside in a quiet panic, hoping our frantic movements wouldn't wake her parents. As the door slid closed and locked, the 3 men had stopped outside her gate and were peering at us as we softly shut the blinds. The most animalistic, hungry, and twisted smiles were leering across each one of their faces as they stood there and gave a slow wave before walking back down the alley into the darkness. At that point, we were too scared to cry. Fear past the point of tears, where a sickness consumes your entire body, escaped through each jagged, torn breath we took. We crawled on trembling hands and knees up her staircase and into her room. We pulled the blankets and pillows from the bed and curled up on the floor, still shaking furiously inside and out. As we laid there in the darkness for some time, my feet throbbing and twitching in pain every few seconds, not speaking a single word to one another, Amy finally spoke her final sentence of the night. What would they have done if they would have caught us? She said in a serious tone, a mixture of shock and horrification lingering in each word. I took a pained swallow down my hoarse throat and whispered, I hope we never know. After that night, Amy and I never snuck out again. We continued, however, to have sleepovers, and for the weeks remaining of the summer, we each had recurring nightmares of being taken into the darkness by 3 shadowed men with nothing but a sharp-toothed, sinister grin on their faces. To this day, I still have those nightmares, every now and again.